Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. I was playing that rocket event the other day, and I got a Shadow DIALGA that hits 1500 CP on the dot, and there was absolutely no choice but for me to make a video on it. Now, Shadow DIALGA has some pretty glaring weaknesses in the Open Great League. In terms of typing, fighting and ground are absolutely everywhere, and it's not particularly good into Incinerate users either. And speaking of, we've got one on the lead. We're going to throw 3 Dragon Breaths, safe switch into Golisopod, and Golisopod's going to fire off the Aqua Jet immediately. Provided this Talonflame is not on Flame Charge, this isn't the worst situation ever, because we'll be able to play out the 2-shield scenario here. One further Incinerate, and they are now going to fire off what's likely to be a Fly. But I can throw 2 further Shadow Claws and an Aqua Jet, but not into this. It's a Ferrothorn coming in. However, DIALGA up a shield is looking at this Ferrothorn as if it's free eats, and they are no shielding our moves, so I'm going to go ahead and no shield in return. It's a Power Whip. And I said up a shield, DIALGA is not up a shield right now, but hopefully in a few seconds it will be. I opted for Thunder. I did have some very nice Draco Meteors landing, but I decided Thunder was probably better overall. Speaking of Thunder, Ferrothorn lands a Thunder onto the DIALGA. It's resisted, but I'm pretty sure that even the double resisted Power Whip may have actually been the way to go there. They're going to fire off a move onto my Jumpluff. Jumpluff just looking to land a move on the Talonflame. And is this Aerial Ace going to get the shield? Yes, it is. I'm really hoping for the KO here, because if they don't KO me, things are going to get really nasty really quickly. Fortunately, the Fly does take us out. Come on, DIALGA. We fall just short of the farm down. Very unfortunate. We're going to see a Claydol in the next lead, and we're going to throw 1 Dragon Breath this time and save switch into Golisopod. They are swiftly going to answer us with a Magcargo, but this is your best answer to a Golisopod up energy. This is an interesting play. I'm going to fire off the Aqua Jet, and they are going to likely retaliate by undertapping a Rock Tomb. I'm going to undertap my Aqua Jet here because worst case scenario I give them the free Incinerate, but I really didn't see them overtapping there. So they do go for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb does get my shield, and now we're able to get another Aqua Jet off here. Aqua Jet onto the Magcargo. We're winning the CMP tie there. And now they are going to bring back in the Claydol. They fire off a move here. I was looking to, if they allowed me, bank this energy and switch out and hope to have it more impactful later on in the game. They are going to bring in a Furret. Now every move Furret can throw except for Sucker Punch is resisted onto the Shadow DIALGA. Unless they're running Dig or Brick Break, those would be pretty bad for me. We're able to make an Iron Head for the first time in this video. I know we're like 2 minutes, 3 minutes into the video, just made the first Iron Head, and now Claydol's going to come back in. They do have access to the super effective Ice Beam, or the double super effective Ice Beam, but I decided to call a Rock Tomb as an Ice Beam would not be enough to KO from full, and they do go for the Rock Tomb, hoping that they can slow down this Jumpluff enough where they can end up living more than one move. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be. GG's to this trainer. My Shadow DIALGA is like invincible in Season 3 because I cannot catch a break right now. It's a Shadow Marowak lead, 1 Dragon Breath, safe switch into the Golisopod, and we are met with a Dunsparce. Dunsparce very hardly core breaks this team, unfortunately, and they are going to be able to reach a move here. I am going to no shield, hoping that I can live a potential Rock Slide, as Dunsparce is quite the fraud. And we are able to live the Rock Slide because, like I said, Dunsparce is quite the fraud. And now we are bringing in the DIALGA. They are able to make a last-second move here, though. DIALGA going for the no-shield drill run. KOs from full. That is the first time a Dunsparce has ever KO'd a Pokemon with a move in one shot. And unfortunately, it was on me. However, Jumpluff is met with a Shadow Marowak, the lead returning back onto the Shadow Jumpluff in a very unfavorable matchup here. I am going to look to call the first, as one Rock Slide is not going to be enough damage to KO. And hopefully they decide to go for the Bone Club bait, but they did not. We are going to fire off an Acrobatics at the Marowak. They are going to no shield, live on 1 HP. And unfortunately, I'm going to shield up what could only be a Bone Club because I was not counting closely enough. It's going to be a Mandibuzz in the back. And unfortunately, realistically, the reason why this game is here is because Shadow DIALGA died to one hit from a Dunsparce, and that is just too funny to pass up. We're going to click on the Aerial Ace here, hoping to get some shields off of this Mandibuzz. Unfortunately, there's not enough baits in this game to potentiate a win here. Aerial Ace going to grab my shield, and now, although they don't have any shields remaining, they're able to outpace before we make that Acrobatics, and the Aerial Ace KO, so GG's to this trainer. Alright, then the next game is going to be Shadow DIALGA into Lapras. Lapras, of course, has access to the hard-hitting Ice Beam. A lot of them are on Skull Bash, but there is an event right now where you can get Ice Beam on your Lapras, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is an Ice Beam Lapras. If I no-shield this, it's probably going to go very similarly to how the Dunsparce game went last game, and we unfortunately no-shield an Ice Beam and get absolutely cooked by it. We are going to bring in the Gliscod. Now knowing that they're on Ice Beam, they do not have any moves that can hit us for very much damage. They are going to fire off a move at the Gliscod. This is likely to just be the Sparkling Aria. Ice Beam does do slightly more. They fire off the Sparkling Aria and are not able to make two moves, so they are going to go down before getting that second move off. And getting that farm down is super impactful as it's a Superior in the back. I am going to pivot out, and it is going to be Clodsire in the back, so switch advantage would have been very nice to have in this game. We would have had the Gliscod on the Clodsire and the Jumpluff on the Superior, but unfortunately, I decided to no-shield the DIALGA for absolutely no reason. Stone Edge will connect onto my shield, grabbing my first Protect Shield of the game, as I go for yet another Acrobatics onto the Clodsire. Clodsire now getting rather low on HP, and you can't really have your Superior aligned onto a Jumpluff. Trust me, it's not a good feeling. They're going to fire off another Stone Edge here, and now I'm going for another Acrobatics. They bring in their Superior, but Superior firing off an Aerial Ace here just is not enough damage. Aerial Ace is not going to be very impactful, and Superior is now chipped enough where an Acrobatics is going to KO. Down goes the Superior. We build up to an Acrobatics, and Acrobatics may not KO the Clodsire from this range, but no matter what they decide to do here, we're in a good spot. Alright, moving swiftly forward, Shadow DIALGA into another Claydol lead. Wow, this is a great time. How did I even manage to get any wins with this Pokemon? We're going to save switch into Gliscod bet with a Blastoise counter switch. Not the best situation ever, but I am going to go ahead, fire off the X-Scissor, do what I can in this matchup, and now they decide to overfarm way too much and throw on the losing CMP tie, so Gliscod's getting a massive amount of value it generally wouldn't otherwise get. And now that the Blastoise has gone down a shield, I'm very happy to no-shield, even though it's very likely to be the Skull Bash that will take out. I'm very happy to now just bring in the DIALGA. DIALGA's going to be able to farm down this Blastoise from this range. They are going to be able to make a last-second Hydro Cannon first, but although we're a Shadow DIALGA, that's relatively not a lot of damage to a Shadow DIALGA, right? Anyway, we bring in the Jumpluff, and they have a Morpeko in the back. This is going to get a little dicey. You might think that this is okay because we are up a shield, but we have to get the shield calls correct here, and we have to bait properly or land in Acrobatics properly. This all comes down to this. Aerial Ace is shielded by the Morpeko, and I know that they're going to reach another move here, so I am going to not play into the losing CMP and shield up this Aura Wheel and look to overfarm as much as I can, pick up the KO with the Acrobatics onto the Morpeko, and leave with a little bit of residual energy for when the Claydol decides to come back in. We are going to need to count closely, and we do. Claydol is firing off a move onto the Shadow DIALGA, where it's not going to be as impactful. They fully undercharge the Rock Tomb, and now Jumpluff has so much loaded energy. It's all up to this. Is Jumpluff going to be able to get away with this W? Come on, Jumpluff. Throwing 4 Fairy Winds and an Acrobatics for good measure. I'm not sure if the Aerial Ace would have KO'd from there, but it doesn't need to. GG's to this trainer. Alright, next up, Shadow DIALGA into Azumarill. This, it's not the worst. I have a play pattern that I like to execute here, and that's building up to either the Ice Beam in the earlier games, or I'll build up to the Play Rough. They always send the Ice Beam, though, on 6 after seeing that you stay in. So I generally will just switch out, try to catch onto Golisopod, and try to play it out from there. Aqua Jet connecting onto the Azumarill, of course doing a solid amount of damage. Here, I kind of have to shield here to try to make a play for switch advantage. Unfortunately, as I've learned by playing this matchup out a few times, this is not a matchup where I'm going to be able to successfully secure switch advantage. Aqua Jet number 2 landing onto the Azumarill. We play into the winning CMP tie once they get their next move. However, this is just not going to be enough damage. Aqua Jet landing onto the Azumarill. Azumarill living with about 1 HP. And now we are unfortunately going to go down, shield, and switch advantage. Not the best spot for me to be in. I switch, you switch, con, bringing in the Jumpluff into a Typhlosion. This, not the best situation. Of course, Aerial Ace grabs a shield from the Typhlosion, and now we're able to get a last second Aerial Ace here. This is pretty good. We're going to go ahead, bring in the Dialga, click on the Iron Head button, winning CMP over the Typhlosion. Not something you see every day there. Iron Head, screenshot, but we fall just short of the KO. Oh, this is terrible. Blast Burn demands a shield. I think that was DRE as well, so they get another Blast Burn because my Dragon Breath doesn't register. That feels real bad. Getting into the next game, Shadow Dialga into big man Blastoise himself. This is not particularly bad. Finally, a decent lead for the Dialga. The Dragon Breath chipping away quite a lot onto the Blastoise. I make it a catch on 5 here, potentiating an Ice Beam catch, and we successfully get the Ice Beam catch. We get the screenshot for the boys. I didn't even send that screenshot to anyone, so that's just a waste. Anyway, I'm going to fire off the Aqua Jet onto the Chargeabug. Are we going to be able to make a second move here? Yes, we are. So far, this trainer is very heavily ABA weak to Dialga, which is not a sentence I thought I would be saying while making this video. Dialga comes in, lands a Dragon Breath, but is going to be tasked with tanking a Discharge. And in fact, it's going to be tasked with tanking 2 Discharges. Unfortunately, we're going to be able to get the farm down of this Chargeabug, however, and we're going to be able to pressure the Blastoise if that's what they decide to bring back in. Blastoise does come back in here, and now we're going to fire off an Iron Head here. This is actually a CMP tie. I meant to do one before, but this actually works out just fine. They let the Iron Head go. In the back, it's going to be Chesnaught. Chesnaught not going to be having too much of a fun time as it's met with the Jumpluff. Chesnaught is going to go for the move here. They zero bubble a Frenzy Plant to BM me. That's a feels bad. And yeah, there's not really any hope left in this game. But since they decided to zero bubble the Frenzy Plant, I'm going to zero bubble the Aerial Ace in return. Aerial Ace gets the shield. One further Aerial Ace. We're zero bubbling this one as well. It's all fun and games here. Aerial Ace doesn't quite KO. One further Fairy Wind will do it. GG's. In the next match, it's going to be Shadow Dialga leading into a Shadow Drapion. I actually don't have a problem with this lead, but it's not necessarily the most comfortable. Speaking of not the most comfortable, they're going to send in a non-Shadow Jumpluff. Jumpluff here is pretty safe into Dialga. They go for an Aerial Ace, and that is not going to cut it. I'm going to build up and fire off this Iron Head onto the Jumpluff. This should grab a shield, and indeed it does. I bring in my own Jumpluff now, and this is pretty safe for me to go for this Aerial Ace. I don't really care what they decide to throw here. They call my Aerial Ace, and they are very low on HP, but unfortunately since they're non-Shadow, that is not quite yet farm down range. It's going to be a pretty aggressive farm down if I decide to go for it. Here they're going to fire off another move. This Jumpluff player, absolutely addicted to baiting, firing off Aerial Ace after Aerial Ace after Aerial Ace. I sincerely doubt they have a second move at this rate. I'm going to fire off an Acrobatics at the incoming Drapion, and Acrobatics onto the Drapion, gets no shielded, not respected. Down goes the Drapion. In comes the Dialga for the farm down. And in the back, they've got the Azumarill. Azumarill, you better shield this up. This is not a Draco Meteor. This is not an Iron Head. It's a Thunder. Thunder does grab the shield from the Azumarill. And if I had baited, unfortunately, I would have made it. But Iron Head still going to do a very sizable amount onto the Azumarill. That's a lot more damage than most moves in the Open Great League do. Bringing back in the Shadow Jumpluff and forcing them to throw energy. Now we are very safe to bring in the Golisopod, not really as if we had a chance. It was our only Pokemon remaining. They go for a last second catch, not able to get it, so they top left. GG's. Not a very good lead in the next game. It's going to be Shadow Dialga now leading into a Talonflame. I'm going to stay in here, throw 3 Dragon Breaths, bring in the Golisopod. I'm going to play this out similarly to how we did last time. Another Aqua Jet is going to be fired. Well, rather, the first Aqua Jet is going to be fired onto the Talonflame, and they are now going to be able to reach a move. But before they decide to throw any energy, they actually elect to bring in their Superior. Not catching an Aqua Jet here, though. It is going to be met with an X-Scissor. They do have enough energy for a move here, but I'm very comfortable with letting this go and now getting farm on Dialga. I could also attempt to get farm on Jumpluff here. That could also be a very good play, but I think we're just going to go for Dialga, as we won't have to take any charge moves in the process. They are going to now bring in Azumarill. Azumarill may be needing to check Pokemoves.com to see what Dialga learned, because Thunder lands onto the Azumarill, massive damage, and we're able to get the catch. I don't even care what move this is. If I caught an Ice Beam, so be it, but it's a play rough. And now, in comes the Talonflame. Talonflame has energy here, but my Dialga has 2 shields. They go for the Flame Charge, and if I'm able to grab a shield here, which I am not, I'd be in a very comfortable position. This is getting very dangerously close. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull this off. Flame Charge onto the Dialga. We are going to be able to shield that up. Going for the full farm down of the Talonflame. Are we going to be able to farm down the Azu? Just short of the farm down. GG's to this trainer. We've made it to the final game of the video, and it's going to be Shadow Dialga leading into Clodsire. Clodsire electing to stay in this very negative matchup. They are going to build up and fire off a move here. Is it going to be the Earthquake? Is it not? I opt to shield at the last second, only to get Stone Edge baited. And in the back, they're going to safe switch in a Snarl Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, oh man, I really hope you have full intention on shielding this move, because if you don't, Mandibuzz nearly getting taken out by the Thunder. Dialga putting in a massive amount of work in this game. Dark Pulse shielded up by the Dialga, farming down from full. Likely going to come back in with the Clodsire, as it can take a move here and most likely be able to connect with an Earthquake. Well, at least that would be the hope of this trainer, but we're going to be able to first strike with an Iron Head. Iron Head shielded, we bring in the Jumpluff, and somebody tell me, is this the triple resisted Earthquake catch? Yes, it is. The screenshot for the boys, unfortunately, puts us behind 1 turn, and that means that we're going to get outpaced to the Stone Edge, but we're still in a very fine position here. We have the Acrobatics loaded. Going for the Acrobatics here is going to be enough to KO the Clodsire. I don't believe this is Aerial Ace range. In fact, looks quite short of Aerial Ace range. In the back, they've got a Feraligatr, but we've got massive amounts of energy here. Grabbing the final shield, bringing in the Golisopod, and there is nothing Gator can do here. They're going to be able to connect with more than 1 move here, but the X-Scissor from the Golisopod is going to comfortably put this Feraligatr in a range where the combination of Jumpluff and Dialga, with as much health as it has, are going to easily be able to dispatch this non-Shadow Feraligatr. So they connect with the Hydra Cannon, go for a slight undercharge, but it's just not going to matter. Dialga comes in, gets the farm down. GG's to this trainer. If you made it to this point in the video, thanks so much for watching. Shadow Dialga is certainly an interesting Pokemon that you can run in the Open Great League. However, if your goal is to gain Elo and not to specifically run something silly for having fun, I would strongly dissuade you from running this Pokemon. Shadow Dialga is very heavily reliant on its oppressive Dragon Breath fast move pressure, which may not be the best in the Open Great League, which is, for all intents and purposes, just the Tinkaton Cup right now. At the Elo I was playing at, Tinkaton seemed to be exceedingly uncommon. However, I would advise against running Shadow Dialga, even if Tinkaton weren't a prevalent threat in the meta, which it very much is. There are quite a few things that are hostile towards Shadow Dialga: the Mud Slappers, Incinerate users, fighting types, Of course, fairy types aren't particularly comfortable either, and Shadow Dialga's pacing is very poor. 17 Dragon Breath to the first move, in fact. So unfortunately, not looking good for our boy Shadow Dialga in that regard. But with all that being said, I hope you found enjoyment in today's video regardless. Thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time. And have a good rest of your day. See ya.